unexpected encounter. Prisha Mehta tugged at the hem of her dress as she approached the glittering entrance of the Celestial, Mumbai's most exclusive rooftop restaurant. The cotton silk blend felt suddenly inadequate under the scrutiny of the doorman's gaze. She had spent weeks perfecting the garment, adapting a pattern from her grandmother's collection and adding delicate hand-embroidered jasmine flowers along the neckline, a small touch of beauty within her budget. "I have a reservation," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Under Mehta." The maitre d', a slender man with a perfectly trimmed mustache and razor-sharp suit, didn't bother checking his tablet. Instead, his eyes performed a leisurely assessment of her attire, lingering on the slightly uneven hemline she'd frantically fixed that morning. "Are you certain you have the correct establishment?" he asked, voice dripping with faux concern. "Perhaps you meant the Celestial Cafe across town? This is the fundraiser for the Biodiversity Conservation Trust. Tickets were 5,000 rupees per plate." Prisha's cheeks burned. "Yes, I'm aware. I'm here representing the Botanical Research Institute." She fumbled in her small clutch for the invitation. "Dr. Sharma couldn't attend, so he sent me in his place." The maitre d' accepted the invitation between two fingers as though it might be counterfeit. A nearby server snickered, whispering to his colleague, "Must be nice when they let the lab assistants play dress-up." Prisha's stomach twisted. She was the lead researcher on the Rainforest Preservation Project, not an assistant, but the correction died on her lips. Around her, Mumbai's elite glided past in designer ensembles that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The fundraiser was crucial. The Institute needed sponsors for their conservation work, and as the project lead, she needed to be here. But now all she wanted was to disappear. "Well," the maitre d' said with an exaggerated sigh, "I suppose this seems to be in order, though typically our guests arrive more appropriately attired." He gestured vaguely toward a table in the far corner, nearly hidden behind a large pillar. "You can wait there until the general seating begins." Prisha clutched her portfolio of research materials tighter. The portfolio containing 2 years of her life's work, breakthrough research on indigenous plant species with remarkable pharmaceutical potential. Research that could save lives if she could just get someone in this room to listen. "Actually," a deep voice interjected, "she'll be sitting with me." Both Prisha and the maitre d' turned toward the source. A man stood nearby, observing the interaction with quiet intensity. Unlike the other guests in their flashy finery, he wore a simple, impeccably tailored navy suit with no tie. His only adornment was a small wooden pin on his lapel, a carved banyan tree. "Mr. Malhotra," the maitre d' stammered, his demeanor transforming instantly. "I didn't realize she was with you." Clearly the man, Mr. Malhotra, replied, his expression neutral but his eyes sharp. He extended a hand toward Prisha. "Vikram Malhotra, I believe we have much to discuss about your conservation work, Dr. Mehta." Prisha's eyes widened. He knew her name, her proper title. Before she could respond, Vikram handed a sleek matte black card to the now flustered maitre d'. "We'll need the private terrace section, and perhaps you could provide the contact information for the management company. I'd like to discuss their hiring practices." The maitre d' blanched. "Of course, Mr. Malhotra. Right away, sir." As they were led to a secluded terrace with a breathtaking view of the Mumbai skyline, Prisha found her voice. "How did you know who I am?" Vikram smiled slightly. "Your paper on the medicinal properties of endangered Western Ghats flora was brilliant. I've been following your work for some time." He gestured to the chair a server hurriedly pulled out for her. "I believe the preservation of indigenous knowledge and biodiversity is the most important work being done right now. But first," he picked up a menu and handed it to her. "I think we should order. The tandoori mushrooms here are exceptional." Prisha sat, bewildered and intrigued. Outside of academic circles, few recognized her work, let alone spoke about it with such genuine interest. As the evening light painted the terrace in gold, she realized she had no idea who Vikram Malhotra was, only that he had just rescued her from humiliation and seemed genuinely interested in her research. What she didn't know was how this chance encounter would completely transform both their lives. Behind the facade, Vikram Malhotra had grown weary of surfaces. As founder of Ecotech Innovations, he had revolutionized sustainable architecture across Southeast Asia, transforming how buildings interacted with their environments. His fortune was substantial but deliberately understated, a philosophy that extended to every aspect of his life. Tonight was his third conservation fundraiser this month. While these events attracted necessary capital, they often felt performative, more about being seen than seeing the critical work that needed support. He'd been about to leave when he noticed the interaction at the entrance. The woman's dignity in the face of such casual cruelty had caught his attention. But it was the portfolio she clutched, bearing the logo of the Botanical Research Institute, that made him intervene. Across the table, Prisha was still trying to understand the strange turn her evening had taken. "I'm sorry, but I'm at a disadvantage. Everyone seems to know who you are." Vikram smiled. "Not everyone. That's intentional." He took a sip of water. "I founded Ecotech Innovations. We design sustainable infrastructure." Prisha's eyes widened with recognition. "The living buildings in Singapore? The vertical forests in Bangalore? That's you?" "Our team, yes." He gestured around the opulent restaurant. "Most people here are interested in conservation as a social accessory. I'm interested in making it functional." As the evening progressed, Prisha found herself forgetting the humiliation of her entrance. She opened her portfolio, showing Vikram her research on native plant species that could naturally filter water pollutants. Her hands moved animatedly as she described the potential applications. "The problem isn't lack of solutions," she explained. "It's lack of implementation. These plants could transform water treatment in rural areas, but no one will fund the field testing." "Why not?" Vikram asked, genuinely curious. "Because it's not profitable enough," she said simply. "Big water treatment companies make more money selling complicated filtration systems that villages can't maintain without expensive specialists." Vikram nodded, understanding completely. It was the same battle he fought daily, convincing investors that sustainability and profitability weren't mutually exclusive. Across town, in a small apartment filled with plants and books, Prisha's life couldn't have been more different from the world of the celestial. After her parents died in a bus accident when she was 16, she'd been raised by her grandmother in Pune. Education had been her refuge and her ticket forward. Every scholarship, every grant, every academic recognition had been hard-won through relentless work. Her tiny balcony garden was her sanctuary, a living laboratory where she tested her theories on a microscale. Her neighbors thought her eccentric, this woman who spoke to her plants and worked at all hours. Few understood that her research could potentially change how communities across India accessed clean water. What connected these two wildly different people wasn't just their interest in conservation. It was a shared weariness of worlds that valued appearance over substance. Both had learned to navigate systems that weren't built for them. Prisha as a woman in a male-dominated field, Vikram as an idealist in a profit-driven industry. As they parted that evening, exchanging contact information for professional purposes, neither acknowledged the unexpected connection that had formed, a recognition that went beyond research interests or business opportunities. It was the relief of finding someone who saw beneath the surface, who valued the work more than the packaging it came in. Neither could have predicted how quickly their worlds would begin to intertwine. Growing connection. 3 weeks after the fundraiser, Prisha stood knee-deep in a stream, carefully collecting water samples. The Western Ghats stretched around her, verdant and alive with the sounds of the monsoon season. Her research team worked nearby, cataloging the native aquatic plants that thrived in these waters. Her phone chimed, an unusual occurrence this far from civilization. The message was from Vikram. "Project approved. Full funding for field testing. When can you start?" Her hands trembled as she read the message again. Full funding, the words she'd been waiting years to hear. What followed was a whirlwind collaboration. Vikram didn't just provide funds, he provided infrastructure, connections, and a platform for Prisha's work. Her natural filtration systems would be implemented in 3 villages as a pilot program, with Ecotech providing the engineering expertise to scale her botanical research. Their professional relationship evolved through long planning sessions and site visits. Vikram was unlike any businessman she'd encountered. He asked questions, listened intently, and respected her expertise. He brought practicality to her theoretical models, while she challenged him to think beyond conventional sustainability approaches. "You don't build things like an engineer," he observed one evening as they reviewed blueprints. "For the first installation, how do I build things then?" she asked, curious about how he saw her. "Like a gardener," he said. "You create systems that can grow, adapt, and respond to their environments. It's beautiful." The compliment lingered between them, opening a door to more personal conversations. During a site visit to a remote village, they found themselves stranded by unexpected flooding. The simple guest house where they stayed had no electricity, and they spent the evening talking by lamplight. Prisha shared stories of her grandmother, who had taught her the names and uses of every plant in their small garden. Vikram spoke of his father, a civil engineer who had built dams across India but always regretted their environmental impact. "He told me on his deathbed to build differently," Vikram said quietly. "To work with nature, not against it." Their worlds continued to merge in unexpected ways. Prisha found herself attending business meetings in Mumbai, speaking confidently about implementation timelines to rooms full of executives. Vikram joined research expeditions, learning to identify medicinal plants and understanding firsthand the ecosystems Prisha fought to protect. When gossip inevitably began, whispers about the convenient relationship between the wealthy entrepreneur and the formerly unknown researcher, they both chose to ignore it. What existed between them was too valuable, too genuine to be tarnished by others' assumptions. 6 months into their collaboration, the first village installation was complete. They stood together as children turned the tap to reveal clean, filtered water flowing through a living wall of native plants. "This is just the beginning," Vikram said, watching the celebration unfold. Prisha nodded, acutely aware of his presence beside her. Of the project or of something else? He turned to her, his usual composure giving way to vulnerability. "I think that depends on you." The question hung between them, full of possibility, until a village elder called them over to express gratitude, the moment temporarily suspended, but not forgotten. What they were building together had expanded beyond either of their original visions, becoming something neither could have created alone. Weathering the storm. The headline blazed across the screen of Vikram's tablet. "India's eco-billionaire and his botanist love or strategic alliance." The article was filled with insinuations that Prisha had manipulated her way into funding, that Vikram was distracted by a pretty face, that their work was suffering due to personal entanglements. Worst of all, it questioned the validity of her research, suggesting it had gained prominence only through her connection to Vikram. "Ignore it," Vikram advised when Prisha called him, her voice tight with anger. "This kind of gossip burns out quickly." But it didn't burn out. As their water filtration project gained attention, so did speculation about their relationship. Prisha found herself excluded from academic conferences where she'd previously been welcomed. Colleagues who had once eagerly collaborated now kept their distance, not wanting to be seen as capitalizing on her connections. The criticism came from all sides. Environmentalists accused Vikram of greenwashing his company through the project. Business associates questioned his judgment, suggesting Prisha had clouded his normally shrewd decision-making. Even Vikram's family expressed concern. During a rare family dinner, his mother didn't bother with subtlety. "Darling, you must understand how it looks," she said, cutting her food with precision. "She was nobody before you noticed her." "She was doing breakthrough research before I met her," Vikram replied coldly. "The fact that you hadn't heard of her reflects on our circles, not her accomplishments." The tension extended to their work. At a crucial investor meeting, Prisha presented her latest findings only to be interrupted repeatedly by questions about her qualifications and relationship to the project director. Afterward, in the privacy of Vikram's office, she finally broke. "Maybe we should step back from working together," she suggested, voice hollow. "The project is suffering because of whatever this is between us." "Is that what you want?" Vikram asked quietly. "Of course not," her voice cracked. "But my work, our work, is too important to be undermined by gossip." These filtration systems could help thousands of communities. Vikram was silent for a long moment. Do you know why I approached you that night at the Celestial? Because of my research, she said automatically. Partially, he acknowledged. But mostly because of how you held yourself when that waiter humiliated you. You didn't crumble or lash out. You maintained your dignity because you knew your worth didn't depend on his assessment. He stepped closer. We're facing the same situation now, just on a larger scale. If we let their opinions determine our actions, we've already lost. That evening changed something fundamental in their approach. Instead of hiding from speculation, they confronted it directly. Prisha published a comprehensive paper on her methodology, inviting peer review from top researchers. Vikram made the project's financial structure transparent, demonstrating that it met every ethical standard. They separated their personal connection from their professional collaboration, establishing clear boundaries and independent decision-making processes, and when they were finally asked directly at a press conference about the nature of their relationship, Vikram's answer was simple. Dr. Mehta and I share a vision for environmental sustainability that transcends personal considerations. Whatever exists between us as individuals is secondary to the work. Prisha, standing beside him, added quietly. But that doesn't make it less real. The storm didn't disappear overnight. But gradually, the focus shifted back to where it belonged, the groundbreaking work they were doing, and the communities it was helping. Full circle. 3 years later, Prisha stood at the entrance of the Living Waters Institute, watching as the final touches were added to the building's living facade. Native vines and flowering plants cascaded down the walls, not just for beauty, but as part of the building's water management system she had designed. This research center, dedicated to developing nature-based solutions for environmental challenges, represented everything she and Vikram had fought for. It stood as a testament to their shared vision, built on the foundation of their complementary strengths. The institute was located not in Mumbai or Bangalore, but in a formerly struggling agricultural region that had embraced their water filtration systems early on. Local farmers had been hired and trained as part of the construction, and many now served as field researchers, contributing generations of ecological knowledge to the scientific work. Nervous, Vikram appeared beside her carrying 2 cups of chai. A little, she admitted, accepting the tea. I never imagined leading something on this scale. The Institute's inauguration ceremony would begin in an hour with government officials, academic partners, and community representatives in attendance. As its newly appointed director, Prisha would outline their ambitious 5-year research agenda. I remember when you couldn't get anyone to fund your field testing, Vikram said with a smile. Now you have researchers applying from around the world to work with you. She nodded, still sometimes surprised by how far they'd come. Their water filtration systems now served over 200 communities across 3 states. Their methodology had been adopted internationally. Most importantly, they had created a model that proved conservation could be economically viable, socially beneficial, and environmentally restorative. Their personal journey had been equally transformative. After navigating the public scrutiny and professional challenges, they had gradually allowed their relationship to evolve naturally. They remained independent in their work. Vikram still led Ecotech, while Prisha directed the institute, but their lives had become deeply intertwined. As guests began to arrive for the ceremony, Prisha noticed a familiar face among the staff, the maitre d' from the Celestial who had tried to turn her away that fateful night. You hired him? She asked Vikram, surprised. After the Celestial closed, he needed work. He's actually quite good at organizing events when he's not being condescending. Vikram shrugged. People deserve second chances. This philosophy extended throughout their work. The Institute actively hired people who had been overlooked or underestimated. Women returning to the workforce, individuals from marginalized communities, elderly villagers with traditional knowledge but no formal education. As they moved toward the ceremonial area, Prisha paused. I have something for you. She reached into her pocket and withdrew a small package. Inside was a pin, a carved banyan tree identical to the one Vikram had worn the night they met, but with small flowers embedded in its branches. "It's jasmine," she explained, "like the embroidery on my dress that night. I had it made to mark the occasion." Vikram's expression softened as he understood the symbolism. Their separate journeys, now intertwined. He removed his original pin and placed both on his lapel. Side by side, the ceremony began with traditional songs performed by children from the nearby village, children who now drank clean water and whose parents had stable employment, through the institute. When it was Prisha's turn to speak, she looked out at the diverse crowd, scientists and farmers, investors and students, all united by a shared purpose. Her gaze found Vikram, who nodded encouragingly. "The most valuable resource we have discovered," she began, "is not in the plants or the water systems we study. It's in our connections, to each other, to our communities, and to the natural world that sustains us." As she spoke about their vision for the future, she reflected on how a moment of humiliation had led to transformation, how an act of kindness had cascaded into something that changed countless lives, how two people from different worlds had found in each other not just personal connection, but a shared purpose larger than themselves. The Institute stood as proof that true value wasn't found in expensive restaurants or exclusive gatherings, but in the courage to see beyond appearances, to recognize worth in unexpected places, and to build something that would outlast them both.